Hello, this is lesson 10-2 on the area of triangles and trapezoids. In tonight's lesson, we're going to look at how to find the area of triangles and also find the area of trapezoids. So we're going to go ahead and get started. Now, what I have up there are it asks you what do you observe. And taking a first look, I bet you say, well, I see a rectangle in the middle and, well, parallelograms along the sides. But all three are really parallelograms. All right. And you also might notice, well, the base is the same, and really the height looks all the same. And all those things are true. But if you've ever taken a piece of computer paper and cut from one piece or side to the one right across from it, so really a diagonal, you'll notice that when you separate them out, you end up with two triangles. So that's what we're going to start with tonight, is triangles. When we talk about how to find the area of a triangle, you can basically find the area of a parallelogram. And then, because a triangle is a half of that, you divide it by 2. So the area of a triangle is half the base times the height. Or I know some students like to see it as base times height, so what you do for rectangles and parallelograms, but because it's half of it, divide by 2 in the end. So, some people like to see it like that, and I think this is the way I'm going to keep doing it in the lesson. So let's try this one. Find the area of this triangle. So we take a look, and again, we can make another triangle right next to it, and I could probably clone one. There we go. So here I have another one, and I can turn it, and if I do that, oh, it's kind of hard to see because it goes over. Let's see, can I put to back? There we go. If I do that, it ends up that those lines match up and we end up with a square. So let's go ahead and just take the length times the height and then divide by 2 since, well, it's half of it. So 13 inches times 6 inches. And if we divide that by 2, we'll have the entire area of that triangle. So 13 times 6 is, 3 times 6 is 18, that's 178 inches squared, divided by 2, and you get 39 inches squared. That would be your answer. Now again, this is considered the base, not this 8 and 8/10 and 8 and 8/10. This is the base, and then this is the altitude or height that intersects it. So those are the two numbers you use. All right, so now we have one like this. We're taking it a step further. They give us this figure. And again, I can turn it so you can see it like that. And they're saying find the area. We're looking at it right now. You probably can't find the area of it. All right, not as one figure. But what we can do is separate it out into figures we do know how to find the area. Say, for example, what would you look at that? We have a rectangle. And I don't know why I made those lines on the outside, but there we go. And we have a triangle. Well, if we take each piece separately, I bet we can find the areas. So first, to find the area of that rectangle, and again, for rectangles, you do base times height. I see 30 centimeters times 45 centimeters. And when you do that, you get 1,350 centimeters squared. All right, so that is the area of this part, 1,350 centimeters squared. Now we need to do the triangle. All right, so we need to take a look and try to figure out what that is. All right, looking at it, because this is where it meets up, I know this is a base, but they don't give me a number for the base. So what do? Well, what's really nice is this is part of this is also part of this rectangle, and rectangles have corresponding sides. So whatever this one is, so is this one. So if this is 45, well, so is the other side. So I have 45 centimeters for a length, and then my height is 20 centimeters. Then if I divide by 2, I'm going to know what the area of that triangle is. I'm trying to move that box out of the way. There we go. So 45 times 20 is 900 centimeters squared, divided by 2 is 450 centimeters squared. So now I know what each piece is. Now I simply add it together because that's what's going to give it to me. So 1,350 centimeters squared plus 450 centimeters squared. And I get 1,800 centimeters squared. That's the area of the entire base. All right. So now we have to talk about area of trapezoids. All right. So when we talk about the area of trapezoids, this is another form of a quadrilateral. So it's just a four-sided figure that has a pair of parallel lines. All right. And again, you take a look on the yellow at the top. They actually have two triangles that make them up, which end up having the same height, but they don't have the same base. For example, this one has 9, this one has a 6 for a base. This is 4, this is 6. But here, the height for each one of these would be considered 4. So what we end up doing to find the area of a trapezoid is you take half the height times the sum of those two bases. So you add together the bases, times it by the height, and then either times by half or again divide by 2, whatever you prefer. And in class tomorrow, if you really want to, I can show you this cool way how they come up with that formula. But again, you have to remember to ask me in class tomorrow. So here's the one they give us. Suppose that through the years a layer of silt and mud settled in the bottom of the Erie Canal. Below is the resulting cross-section of that canal. Find the area of the trapezoidal cross-section. So we know it's a trapezoid. They tell us that. So we're going to use that area. 1/2 times the height times the two bases. So those two parallel sides, that's what you put in there. Our first step is put in what we know. Well, that 1/2 stays the same. The height, well, that's 3 feet. And my bases, well, one base is 40 feet. The other base is 31 feet. And again, I got those because those are the parallel sides. Whatever the parallel sides are, those are the bases. Then, order of operations states, I start in the parentheses, so I end up with 71 feet times 3 feet times 1/2. So now you go ahead and just multiply those all together. Me, I do 71 times 3 and get 213. And again, you could just divide by 2 at the end or multiply by 1/2. And you end up with 106 and 5/10 feet squared. There we go. So that's how you do that one. Let's see what else we have. Oh, and then we're actually at the end of the lesson. But why don't we just try this one for a nice little practice. Number 1 says find the area of trapezoid PQRU. So this whole trapezoid, PQRU. So we're going to go ahead and do that. All right. So looking at this is actually a trickier one because again we do 1/2 times the height times base 1 plus base 2. And I'm going to have to move my work down here. All right. So 1/2, well, the height is 8. Now, base 1, I can say, is 18 feet. And this is feet as well. Now, this base continues this whole thing. They tell me this piece right here is 5 feet. This is 7 feet. Well, I'm still missing this piece. But again, in the middle is a rectangle. So this is actually 18 feet as well. So, to get the whole area here, or the whole base, 5 plus 18 plus 7 is where I'm going to start. 18 plus 5 is 23, plus 7 is 30 feet. So the length of that base is actually 30. Right, and then I solve 48 feet times 8 feet times 1/2 or divided by 2. So 48 times 8. And then divide it by 2 right away, and I get 192 feet squared. All right, that would be the area of that trapezoid. And that's tonight's lesson. Tonight's lesson, we talked about how to find the area of triangles by doing half the base times the height. And we talked about how to find the area of trapezoids by doing half the height times the sum of those two bases. You have a great night.